In the snow-swept hills of Vermont, Ava Thompson, a driven 35-year-old businesswoman haunted by loss and a near-fatal heart attack, seeks solace in her secluded retreat, only to find strangers within. A widowed father, Noah, and his 2 young children, claiming her empty home as their sanctuary. But it's Axel, her loyal German shepherd, who bridges the divide, weaving threads of unexpected warmth and healing. What begins as intrusion unfolds into a profound journey of love, redemption, and rediscovered family, proving that light can emerge from the darkest loneliness. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Snow fell steadily in the Vermont hills that January afternoon, soft and relentless, blanketing the narrow road in quiet white. The world outside the car window was muffled, the pines heavy with frost, the sky a low, unbroken gray. Inside, the heater hummed faintly, but the warmth could not reach the ache in Ava Thompson's chest. Ava was 35, a woman who had built a life of sharp edges and quiet victories. Her face was fair, lined faintly at the corners of her eyes from years of late nights and decisions made alone. Her brown hair fell straight to her shoulders, gathered now in a loose knot against the chill. She wore a light gray down jacket over a beige cashmere turtleneck, dark jeans, and fur-lined boots. Practical, understated, the uniform of someone who had once commanded boardrooms but now sought only silence. Her hands, steady on the wheel, trembled slightly when she reached across to touch Axel. The German shepherd lay beside her on the passenger seat, his black and tan coat thick and warm, his dark eyes fixed on her with the patient certainty of old loyalty. 6 years old, he was muscular and alert, ears erect, tail still. He had come to her as a rescue after her parents were gone, and in the years since, he had become the only constant she trusted. She stroked the soft fur behind his ears, and he turned his head, tongue brushing her knuckles in a slow, deliberate lick. The gesture eased the lingering tightness in her chest, a small mercy she had learned to accept. Research had told her once that such contact lowered cortisol, quieted the heart's frantic rhythm after a scare like hers. She believed it now, not because of studies, but because Axel had never lied to her. The road curved and the house appeared at last, timber frame half hidden by snow-laden branches, windows dark against the pale afternoon. She had bought it years ago as an escape, a place to breathe when the city pressed too close. Now, after the heart attack that had forced her out of meetings and into stillness, it felt like the only place left. She parked, the engine ticking down into silence. Axel sat up, ears forward, nostrils flaring at the unfamiliar scents carried on the wind. Ava stepped out first, boots crunching into fresh snow. The cold bit at her face. She opened the passenger door, and Axel bounded down, paws sinking deep, tail sweeping arcs in the powder. For a moment she watched him, grateful for his simple joy. Then she turned toward the porch. Smoke rose from the chimney, a thin thread against the gray sky. She froze. The key was in her hand, but the door stood ajar. Inside, light spilled from the living room, warm, yellow, lived in. Voices drifted out, soft and young. A child's laugh, then a man's low murmur. Ava's breath caught. She had not expected this. Not here. Not now. Axel sensed the shift in her, pressed close to her leg, a low rumble in his throat, not aggression, only question. She laid a hand on his head. "Easy," she whispered. She stepped forward. The door creaked wider. In the hallway stood a man, 39, perhaps 40, tall, broad-shouldered from years of labor. Noah Sullivan. His skin was fair with the faint tan of someone who worked outdoors even in winter. Short, dark brown hair, a trimmed beard framing a face that carried weariness and resolve in equal measure. He wore a red and green plaid flannel jacket over a thick cotton shirt, work jeans, and sturdy boots. His eyes, brown and steady, met hers with surprise but no fear. Behind him, 2 children peered out. Lucas, 8, slim and energetic, brown hair tousled, wearing a navy parka and snow pants. Sophia, 6, small and watchful, light brown waves in ponytails, pale pink puffer coat zipped to her chin. They had been here, it seemed, long enough to make the house theirs for a season. The kitchen smelled of coffee and wood smoke. The garden beyond the window, once overgrown, now neat, even in snow. Someone had cared for it. Ava's voice came out quieter than she intended. "This is my house." Noah nodded slowly. "We know. We thought it was empty. We needed somewhere. The kids were cold." His tone held no apology, only fact. The children watched her, eyes wide. Sophia clutched a stuffed bear. Lucas edged closer to his father. She should have called the police. Should have demanded they leave. Vermont law allowed squatters time, 15 years for any claim. But this was not that. This was trespass. Yet the warmth of the room pressed against her, the scent of fresh bread on the counter, the way the children looked at Axel with sudden wonder. The dog had already moved past her, tail low but wagging, nosing toward Lucas. The boy hesitated, then knelt, reaching out. Axel dropped a worn tennis ball from his mouth at the child's feet, an old toy he carried everywhere. Lucas laughed, a bright sound that cut through the tension. Sophia giggled too, stepping forward. Axel looked back at Ava, eyes soft as if to say, "See, they are not strangers." Ava felt something shift inside her, small but unmistakable. The anger was still there, the sense of violation, but beneath it lay exhaustion. She had come here to heal, not to fight, not yet. 10 days, she said at last. "You can stay 10 days. Find somewhere else." Her voice was firm, but her eyes lingered on the children, on Axel now sitting between them, patient and sure. Noah exhaled. "Thank you." She turned away toward the stairs, Axel following at her heel. Upstairs, in the room that had once been hers alone, she sat on the edge of the bed. The house was no longer empty. The silence she had craved was broken by soft voices below, by the creak of floorboards, by the quiet thump of a dog's tail. She looked out the window at the falling snow. For the first time in months, the ache in her chest felt smaller, not gone, but shared. She would not admit it yet, but something had begun. The days lengthened slowly after the snow, each one a quiet negotiation between old habits and new presences. Morning light filtered through frost-etched windows, carrying the scent of pine smoke and fresh coffee. The house, once empty, now held echoes of footsteps and soft voices. Ava moved through it carefully, like someone relearning a familiar room after years away. She woke early, as always, the ache in her chest a faint reminder rather than a sharp command. Downstairs, the kitchen was already alive. Noah stood at the stove, sleeves rolled, stirring oatmeal with the steady motion of a man who had learned to make do. His beard caught the light, silver threads among the dark. He looked up when she entered, eyes meeting hers with a nod that carried no expectation. "Coffee's hot," he said, voice low and even. She accepted the mug, fingers brushing his briefly. The warmth seeped in. Lucas and Sophia sat at the table, bowls in front of them, spoons idle, until Axel appeared. The German shepherd padded in, tail low but sweeping, and settled between the children. Lucas reached out first, small hand on the thick black and tan fur. Axel leaned into it, eyes half closed in contentment. Ava watched from the doorway. The sight stirred something deep, a memory of her own childhood mornings, quiet, solitary. Here, the silence was different. It had company. Axel became the bridge without effort. In the afternoons, when the sun broke through and the snow softened, he led the children into the woods behind the house. Ava followed at a distance at first, boots crunching on the path, breath clouding the air. The trees stood tall and patient, branches heavy with white. Axel moved ahead, nose to the ground, ears alert, circling back to nudge Lucas or nose Sophia's mitten. The boy laughed when the dog bounded through drifts, snow flying like powder. Sophia trailed slower, clutching a stick, but her steps grew surer. Ava found herself closer each day, drawn by their voices carried on the cold wind. She listened to Lucas tell Axel stories, about school friends, about the fort they wanted to build. Axel listened too, head tilted as if he understood every word. One afternoon, the children discovered a frozen stream. They knelt, peering at ice patterns. Axel lay beside them, protective flank against Sophia's side. Ava sat on a fallen log nearby, the cold seeping through her coat. She thought of her father's words again. Axel understands. Perhaps he did. Perhaps he understood more than she had allowed herself to believe. The ache in her chest eased a little further, not from medicine, but from the simple act of being near. The doctor called on a quiet evening. Ava sat by the fire, phone pressed to her ear, flames casting shadows across the room. The voice on the line was calm, familiar. "Rest is part of it," he said. "But connection matters more than you think. Studies show pet owners, especially with dogs, recover better after events like yours. Lower stress, steadier heart. And human company. It helps. Don't push it away." She glanced toward the living room doorway. Noah was reading to the children, voice soft, Axel stretched at their feet. The dog's eyes met hers across the space, steady and knowing. Ava thanked the doctor and ended the call. She stayed there a long while, watching the fire die down to embers. The house smelled of wood smoke and wool. For the first time in years, the quiet did not feel like absence. It felt like possibility. She rose slowly, crossed to the doorway. Noah looked up. No words passed between them, only a shared glance. Axel lifted his head, tail thumping once against the floor. Ava felt the shift inside her, a small, deliberate opening. She would not name it yet, but she knew it was there. Winter deepened in Vermont, the kind of cold that settles into bones and stays. Afternoons turned early to dusk, the light thin and silver through bare branches. The house held its breath between the wind's low moan and the crackle of the wood stove. Inside, time moved differently, slower, softer, as though the walls themselves had learned patience. One evening, Noah sat on the porch steps after supper, coat unbuttoned, breath visible in the chill. Ava found him there, Axel at his side. The German shepherd had followed Noah out without invitation, settling close, head resting on the man's knee. Noah's hand moved absently through the thick black and tan fur. His shoulders carried the weight of years, 39 winters, most of them hard. The beard was fuller now, flecked with frost. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, almost lost in the wind. She was on a site in Burlington. Scaffold gave way. They said it was quick. He paused, fingers tightening in Axel's ruff. The dog did not move away. Instead, he pressed closer, a solid warmth against the man's leg. Noah's eyes stayed on the dark trees. After that, the bills came. Lost the apartment, lost the job. Winter here doesn't forgive much. Ava stood in the doorway, arms folded against the cold. She listened without speaking. The ache in her own chest echoed his. Not the same pain, but kin to it. Axel lifted his head, dark eyes finding hers across the porch. In that look was no judgment, only steady presence. She stepped out, sat on the step beside them. The wood was cold through her jeans. For the first time, she let the Millionaires hold them all. The next morning, an old pickup rattled up the drive. Mr. Martin, the neighbor from down the ridge, 78, bent but steady, climbed out slowly. White hair thin under a wool cap, face weathered like old barnboard, eyes sharp beneath heavy brows. He wore a faded Carhartt jacket and carried a jar of preserves, the way country people still do. "Saw the smoke steady now," he said, handing the jar to Ava. "House looks lived in again." He glanced at Noah, who had come out with the children. Lucas and Sophia ran to Axel, who circled them protectively, nudging them back from the deeper snow. Mr. Martin watched the dog work, herding gently, never forceful. "That one's got good instincts," he said. "Keeps 'em safe. House too. Better with voices in it than echoes." He turned to Ava. "Folks leave places empty here. They fall apart. Taxes, weather, thieves. But people mend things." His voice held no lecture, only the quiet certainty of a long life. Ava nodded. The old man tipped his cap and drove away, leaving the jar on the rail and the air smelling faintly of blackberries. Days passed in small, shared rhythms. Ava and Noah walked the trails with Axel, the children ahead or behind. The dog led, always checking back, tail a slow metronome. One afternoon the path narrowed, trees closing in. Sophia lagged, eyes on the ground. Axel paused, circled her, pressed his flank to her side until she rested a hand on his shoulder. Noah watched, something loosening in his face. Later, by the frozen pond, he spoke again. "First time I've felt safe since her." Ava looked at him then, really looked. The lines around his eyes were not just from sun and labor. They were from nights alone with grief. She thought of her own empty rooms, the way silence had become a companion she no longer wanted. "I was afraid of this house," she said, "afraid it would stay empty forever." Axel sat between them, ears forward, listening to the wind and to them. The children laughed farther down the path, their voices carrying like distant bells. Ava felt the words rise unbidden. "I lost my parents young, built everything after. Thought it was enough." Noah met her gaze. No rush, no demand, just recognition. Axel leaned into her leg, a quiet anchor. They walked back as dusk gathered, snow crunching underfoot, breath clouding the air. The house lights glowed ahead, warm, steady. Ava realized she no longer counted the days until they left. The thought surprised her, then settled like soft snow. Something had taken root, fragile but real. Spring whispered at the edges of winter in Vermont, the snow melting into quiet rivulets down the hills. Rain fell softly now, pattering on the roof like fingers on wood. The house breathed with it, windows fogged, the air heavy with damp earth and wood smoke. Inside, change hung like mist, unseen, but felt. The knock came one gray afternoon. Ava opened the door to Patricia, her old partner from the city. 45, sharp-eyed and composed, hair cropped short and dark, suit tailored under a raincoat. Her voice carried the edge of boardrooms, steady but insistent. "You vanished, Ava. The firm's crumbling without you." She stepped in, heels clicking on the wooden floor. Rain dripped from her umbrella. Noah watched from the kitchen doorway, silent. The children played upstairs, voices muffled. Patricia's eyes scanned the room, the warmth, the lived-in corners, and softened briefly. "This isn't you. Come back. Fix it." Ava stood still, hands in her pockets. The words stirred old memories, endless meetings, the thrill of deals closed, the emptiness after. She had built that life from nothing after her parents. It had been her armor. But now the ache in her chest reminded her of its cost. She glanced at Axel, lying by the fire, eyes watchful. The dog rose, padded over, leaned against her leg. His presence grounded her. "I'm done," she said quietly. "Selling my share, starting over here." Patricia exhaled, a mix of frustration and understanding in her gaze. She left soon after, the door closing softly behind her. Ava sat by the window, rain streaking the glass. The decision felt like shedding old skin, painful but necessary. She thought of her father. Work hard, but live true. For the first time, she felt she was. That evening, Noah found her in the living room. The fire crackled low, shadows dancing on the walls. He sat across from her, hands clasped, beard shadowing his jaw. "Found a place in town," he said. "Small apartment. We'll go soon." His eyes held doubt, the kind born from loss and self-doubt. Ava's heart tightened. She had grown used to the children's laughter, to his quiet strength. The thought of the house empty again chilled her more than the rain outside. "Why now?" she asked. He looked away, breath slow. "Afraid." "Of this." "Of hoping." Axel lay between them, tail still. The dog had become their silent witness, his dark eyes shifting from one to the other. Ava felt the pull inside, fear of opening up, of losing again. But the days had taught her otherwise. The warmth in the room, the scent of damp wood, the steady rhythm of rain. It all spoke of possibility. She reached for words, but held back. Noah rose to leave, steps heavy on the stairs. Upstairs later, the journal lay open on her bed. Axel had brought it, nose nudging it from Noah's room, tail wagging as if sharing a secret. The pages held his heart, grief for his wife, fear of failing the children, a growing tenderness for her. Ava read, breath catching, tears blurring the ink. Footsteps sounded. Noah entered, froze. "That's private," his voice broke. Axel sat in the doorway, ears forward, watching. The rain drummed harder now, a veil between them and the world. Ava closed the book, stood. "I'm sorry, but I feel it too." Words spilled then, her loneliness, his doubt, the love neither had named. They faced each other, inches apart, breaths mingling. Axel whined softly, pressing close. In that moment, the barriers crumbled. "You changed me," Noah whispered. "Us too," she replied. Tears fell, not from pain, but release. They embraced, the dog at their feet like a benediction. The rain eased outside, light breaking through clouds. In the quiet after, Ava knew this was no accident. Life had led them here to heal together. She promised herself and him to choose this every day. Night fell heavy that winter eve in Vermont, wind howling like old regrets through the pines. The house stood quiet, but inside a fever burned bright. Sophia's small breaths came ragged, the air thick with worry and the faint scent of pine sap from the fire. The call to the hospital came swift. Sophia, pale and hot, clutched her bear as Noah carried her to the taxi. 6 years old, her light brown ponytails damp with sweat, eyes glazed but trusting. Ava followed, heart pounding in echoes of her own past scares. The rain-slicked road blurred past, taxi tires hissing on wet pavement. Axel would not be left. The German shepherd bolted after the car, paws pounding, black and tan coat soaked, determination in his stride. At the hospital, bright lights stung like accusations. The doctor, middle-aged, kind-faced, with wire-rimmed glasses, white coat rumpled from long shifts, examined her gently. "Pneumonia," he said, voice steady. "Common in these winters. She'll mend." Noah paced, beard shadowed in the fluorescent glow, eyes torn between fear and resolve. Ava sat by the bed, holding Sophia's hand. Axel, allowed in after a nod from the staff, lay beside the girl. He licked her fingers softly, tail still, dark eyes fixed on her face. The doctor paused. "Dogs like him help. Studies show they cut anxiety in kids. Nearly half feel calmer with animal therapy." Ava watched the child's breathing ease under Axel's touch. In that sterile room, smelling of antiseptic and rain-damp fur, the bond deepened. Noah met her gaze across the bed, something unbreakable forming in the silence. Ava felt her own fears surface, losing this fragile family, and then fade. They had shared enough pain to know healing's quiet grace. Morning broke gray, but Sophia stirred stronger. The crisis had passed like a storm, leaving clarity in its wake. Back home, wood crackled in the stove, the house warm with soup simmering and children's voices returning. Noah sat with Ava on the porch, Axel between them, head on her knee. "I choose you," she said softly. "You, the kids, Axel, every day." Her voice held no drama, only truth born from nights of doubt. Noah's eyes softened, the lines of his face easing. "I love you," he replied, simple as breath. The words hung in the cool air, scented with melting snow. Axel thumped his tail once, as if affirming. Weeks later, in the village chapel, they married. Simple vows under stained glass, Mr. Martin witnessing with a nod. Lucas scattered petals. Sophia beamed in her pink dress. The ring slipped on, cool metal warming to skin. Ava felt the weight of old loneliness lift, replaced by shared light. 6 months on, summer bloomed full. Ava had sold the company, papers signed in a quiet office, the city a distant memory. The house rang with life now, Noah's laughter, children's play, a new baby stirring within her. Evenings by the fire, Axel at their feet, tail sweeping arcs on the floor. The dog had been the first thread, weaving them together. Ava stroked his fur, remembering the empty days. Love had come not in grand gestures, but in small fidelities. The lick of a tongue, a shared glance, a promise kept. Wealth had bought the house, but this was home. True and lasting. In that gentle unfolding, they found forgiveness for the past, faith in what lay ahead. As the snow melts and new life stirs in Vermont, remember this. Loneliness and illness can feel like endless winter, especially when the years weigh heavy and the house grows quiet. But love, even late in life, can still find its way in through a faithful dog, a kind neighbor, or an open door. You are never truly alone. Healing often comes in small, gentle moments. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs hope. Leave a comment below and subscribe for more tales of redemption and grace. May the Lord bless and keep you, ease your burdens, and surround you with warmth and companionship in the days ahead. You are loved.